like to speak this morning about one of the aspects of mind that is often a great deal of unnecessary pain, a tactic of mind that is used across the board in the spiritual pursuit. And that is this intermittent, for some it is more constant, story about falling short. On some level, failing. Even the simple desire to feel the self more deeply is rooted in an interpretation that what is not good enough. Where you are is not good enough. So there is this mechanism of striving. And what comes along with it are these intermittent stories of failing. It's a universal aspect to the program. And it has nothing to do with anything. It's just an aspect of the program. It is very, very helpful to watch these tactics at play. It is set up for you to be freed from this ingrained tendency, as opposed for it to drive striving that is based upon where I am right now is not quite there. How can where you are now be not quite there if the individual is a myth? That appears. And the story is, I should not be identified with the individual when I know it is not there. It's all just more a mind game. Where you are is where you are. It could not be more simple. And the possibility is to watch the mental tactics that drive the experience of the separate individual into this striving mode. Can be heightened in what is called meditation time, often a very subtle program desiring to go deeper, desiring some idea. The first piece is that the only thing that is real is now. The feeling of now has no identity. Everything that is attached to the identity is built upon either striving or fear. In meditation, it is mainly the flavor of striving, which is built on a subtle or obvious story that what is a reflection that I am not there yet. This life is a life being lived in the highest human possibility. It is a life of alchemy, transforming suffering into gold by just stopping and receiving that which has created all the insanity. There is no one who is falling short. How is that possible? It does not mean that the mind stops offering what it is programmed to offer, but it is just about witnessing the tactics, recognizing that there is no one choosing these thought complexes. That it's all a mirage. Reality is what is, and what is now. The feeling of reality is the feeling of yourself. The mind sets up this tactic to try to ascertain what it can only distract the attention from. And in this environment, it is built upon a striving based on a belief that I am falling short. It is not an individual challenge. It is the nature of mind for every player. It is to really take this in deeply because the nature of this mind is so sophisticated. To watch and see how it works. To see there is no chooser. There is no individual one. and then to watch the mind's attempt to claim something that it is in fact a distraction from. Mind says, okay, I'm going to take this in, but it's just mind. It's just mind. There is the flip side of it, when there is the opening, and the mind has this subtle story of feeling really good. The most seductive form of reinforcement is what is called intermittent reinforcement, which is the openings and the closings in the experience of the arena of mind. Drives this craving. Desire is really a better word than craving. For someone that has nothing to do with any of it and can never be found. And there is this wisdom, this unimaginable wisdom that is at the helm. What is at the helm is that which is all-knowing. There is a kindness and perfection to the evolution that occurs. There is an idea from the mind's perspective of where I want to be. But the truth is, if you were where your mind said you wanted to be, you would realize you're not ready. You are where you are. And it is this wisdom that is at the helm. The nature of what you are. There is a body, you do have a body, but it is a light body. And it is infinite. In order to create the confusion of the life of separation, that I am this body, the power of this Shakti has to dampen down at least 100-fold. If all of a sudden that light switch were turned on, you would not be able to handle it. It's all being done in this perfect timing. Cannot contain what is infinite in a point of reference. As you fall into your infinite nature, you taste the Shakti, the light, gradually more and more. Many in this process already go through great body challenges. A large part of the challenges to the body is this process of transformation, where the level of energy that is coming in is intensifying. Body goes through all kinds of things in this transformative process. It's gradual. What is infinite has such enormous power. If there is an attempt to box it based on conditioned habit, cause insanity. How could you not be exactly where you are meant to be? In the simple recognition that it is the ordainer, the creator. It's the only thing at the helm. It's all there is. What you yearn for is all there is. What you seek is exactly what is being offered, even if the mind is spinning a story that it is off. I am failing. It is set up in the wisdom because there must be a freedom from the illusion of the failing one. This freedom comes by stopping and watching the mechanics. Sets up all of the potentials, all of the latent potentials to latch on to this. Out of this wisdom, you cannot be freed if you're not freed from all the latent potentials. So mind says, oh, this one is so much deeper and freer than I am. It's all a sham. There's only the self. And the self is the ordainer, and the ordainer is this infinite wisdom, and it's offering possibility to be freed from an identification with a story of failure, which drives a desire for something that can never come to the character because the character isn't really there. It just seems to be. So what is true about this life? This life is oriented towards the most humble, beautiful human possibility. You just look at the immediate environment, the love that's in the life, the love in the community. Where do you witness anything like this? It's a reflection of yourself. And then there is the piece that is wanting to be freed, the individual striver. The one who believes they need to be more. The one who believes there is something wrong. Something to fix about me. Just to watch. It is true, there is always a pointing to beauty that is reality. But immediately conditioned mind sets up this game, cannot be stopped. It's the mechanical nature of it. It is true that the more you feel into yourself, the more that habit is freed. But at the same time, it can increase the activity of the mind with intensified stories of what it wants. The reason why tasting yourself is the greatest possibility is because what is truly tasted is not in time. It is your true self, the self, tasting itself. And then it becomes more alive. More joyous. But it has nothing to do with the character. It has nothing to do with success or failure. It has nothing to do with someone. It's not that someone becomes free, it's insanity, this belief. It's that the nature of consciousness that in truth you are, which is always only alive now, without identity or story, begins to realize its nature. Begins to recognize that the attention has gotten swept into the experience of objects as the result of identification, creating the experience of someone. And then the consciousness that you are starts striving for consciousness, which is what you are. It's what you are striving for what you are, setting up a story of failing. And it's all a hypnosis that is hypnotized consciousness, not someone. The nature of consciousness and the unique expression is your light body that is infinite, that does not intersect with the flesh. The flesh is an appearance. As long as there is the possibility of identifying with the flesh, as there is the discovery of your nature, flesh will start going crazy. There is no such thing as levels. There is no such thing as someone who's got it more than someone else. There is no such thing as an individual, a chooser. There is the ordainer, the infinite wisdom. That brings all of this into expression to free itself, that has been misidentified as someone who is striving to awaken, feeling like he or she is falling short, at least in a subtle way, most of the time, either feeling like it's falling short, or it's a story that, yeah, I've got it. Either way, it's the same thing to just its watch. It is consciousness that has forgotten its nature. Your nature is consciousness. Your nature is the self. As the self begins to rediscover itself, there is all this light and beauty and joy and happiness. And then the mind says, I want that. I haven't experienced that yet. It's all just mechanical, irrelevant, not pointing to anyone. No one choosing those thoughts. You are already freedom. You are already consciousness itself. The character is the nature of infinite consciousness in the particular flavor that is called you, that has forgotten, not an individual, but consciousness forgetting, creating the experience of an individual. Eternity, forgetting its nature, having the experience of being limited in time. Infinity, forgetting, having the experience of being boxed into a reference point. The greatest possibility is just now. Whatever it is being ordained by the Beloved. What you truly want is always exactly what is, no matter what the mind's machinery may spit out. And it is being orchestrated in this guidance in the gentlest way possible, carrying consciousness through something that is often very far from gentle, but it's being orchestrated in the gentlest way possible so that the nature of your being can be released from this prison. And the bars of the prison are built by the story of who I am. It's not someone's problem. There is no such thing as someone. It's not something to break through. There is no such thing as an individual to break through. It's being yourself. Yourself is alive now. It's either the feeling of yourself, which is everywhere. Sometimes it's the feeling of constriction and busyness and being lost. But whatever is playing now is the ticket. And to just watch the mind's interpretations, reactions, its incessant way of creating this story of not quite good enough, needing to taste it deeper. To taste what deeper? You are infinite space. Words come forth and it deepens the taste, and at the same time the mind gets activated. Either I cannot feel what is infinite, which the mind cannot. That is what I want. I will sit for hours and hours so that I can get that. You just watch its nature. And receive reality. The mind is not reality, the mind is the interpretation. Receiving reality and watching the interpretive process. Reality has no past. Why? There is no past. Reality has no past because there is no past. Reality has no future because there is no future. And then the mind says, I want to be rooted in now, but the mind is what is the distraction from now. So you watch it, and when there is identification, you just receive that. You just receive it. Now, you receive it now, with the attempt to forego relationship with content. You cannot get out of now, no matter what the mind's story is. You can't get out of now. Even if the story is I'm failing and I'm in the past and the future, you're aware of it now. You're aware of the distraction now. You can't get out of now. It's where you live. There is nothing to strive for, yet there is something to be freed from. Being freed from the hypnosis by watching the mechanics of it. Being freed from the hypnosis by feeling the nature of the consciousness that you are. What binds consciousness? love? What binds happiness? What binds infinity? What binds eternity? You are the force that is brought into creation, the whole manifest universe. If you were to taste this force while identified with the body, you would be screaming to be back where you rightly are. Because there is this wisdom that offers this process in the gentlest way possible. The role of this life, it is so exquisite how it is. It brings forth the facing of all of the challenges that the conditioned mind is conditioned to steer away from. And in it, it takes the heart of a warrior. But the heart of a warrior is not about engaging in battle. The heart of the warrior is the one that simply will not run. Will not run. Remain still as you are stillness. Remaining still and receiving everything conditioned. Seeing its nature. Seeing it through. This is the most beautiful way possible to live life. Living a life that could not be more significant. And yet these stories of someone failing, the nature of the programming. I read that Gandhi, maybe the being that had as much impact out of love and kindness and transforming the world as anyone who has ever lived. An article where he said that all of the compliments that he received for his life's offering to him felt like it cut like glass because his journey was not complete within himself, and it hurt to receive compliments. This is the nature, the insanity of the mind. It does not matter how pure. The mind is going to have stories. It is not someone's dynamic, it is the nature of the mind. It is not getting something, it is freeing something. It is freeing the relationship with the mind, the distractive habit that creates a fantasy of time and someone, striving, failure. And simply being yourself, feeling yourself. Where do you begin and end? And then you feel the consciousness that you are, feeling itself, coming alive, being released from this trance. And the light grows because it is not under the illusion of being bound by something. Endless field of consciousness becomes more alive. The collective hypnosis begins to be so subtly more awake to itself, the whole thing, because it's all one thing. All of it becomes a little more awake. Love becomes a little more awake to itself. Actions begin to arise out of that. Support and nurturance become a little more awake. Actions started to arise out of that. Joy becomes a little more awake to itself. Actions start arising out of that. the individual begins dissolving back into from where it came, which is nowhere. Feeling yourself, that which is unbounded, humbly receiving whatever is being offered when there is the taste of challenge, without running, and always watching the mechanics of mind, which is what frees the myth that any of that has anything to do with you.